Hi everyone. Welcome back. So, guys, as part of the previous session, we have seen the first option basically how exactly we can execute our playwright test. Right. Now, let us go with the second option, which is the headed mode. So, guys, as said in the previous session, you no need to follow this particular document that I have listed down. You can also look at the official documentation. See, if you look at this particular official documentation, this is the first option that we have studied, and below that there is an option which is a run test in a UI mode. So the UI mode is a completely of a different section that we will be covering as part of the next lecture once we studied all these options. That's the reason I'm continuing my sessions with run the test in a headed mode, run the test on a different browser, run the test on a specified browser. All these options, we are going to study one after another right now. And what I'm going to do right now is let me pull up my document here. Okay, let me pull up my document here. So, which is if you see the first command, basically, you didn't see the browser, how exactly it's executing. But if you add a headed, basically, it will run the test on a headed mode, which you can see basically. Okay, npx playwright test hyphen headed. I was just using this headed itself. So whenever I use it, this particular headed, see, it should launch a browser for us and the execution should happen on this browser. See here, the two browsers got launched and the actions got performed on the browser. For our better visibility, I'm just launching this, rerunning this particular command again. See here, the browsers got launched and the execution got completed. Headed itself is this is the meaning. And what I'm do excuse me. And what I'm doing for now is let me uncomment the lines, the web engines basically, which is a Firefox and as well as a WebKit engine that we have commented earlier. Let me uncomment those lines in the config.file file. Okay, let me uncomment those lines in the config.file file. Perfect. So if you come back to this documentation, whenever you used a headed, it is specifying that you can run the tests in a headed mode where you can see them. Okay, the next option here is hyphen project WebKit. So this is the engine that you need to specify. Hyphen project, the engine you need to specify. It will be running the test on a specified browser itself. So let's come back here. Okay, let's come back here. I'm just pressing this up arrow instead of a headed hyphen project. Okay, hyphen project, and if you look at it basically space a WebKit, space WebKit is the engine that I'm specifying. So when I run it, basically the two tests are being executed on that WebKit engine. Okay. No, what I'm trying to do right now here is, so here if you look at it, the WebKit engine, it got executed. On top of it, I'm using an headed, hyphen headed. So what it's gonna does here, running a two tests and the execution got a completed. So, but I didn't see the execution. What I'm doing right now means I'm on a full screen maximized mode. Let me tweak out, let me come out from that. And now when I try to run it this time, if you look at it, so two instances got opened. So two instances got opened for me. So let me highlight it here. So I just highlighted in the footer. If you look at this particular place, okay, when I try to run it as I headed, right, see the two browsers were launched and the execution got completed on those browsers. So which means what I can say is whether you can specify the browser name that you want to execute or the engine name that you want to execute and also the headed mode, you can do that. Okay, perfectly all right. So npx playwright test hyphen project webkit means basically this will run the test on a specified browser. Now, npx playwright test, if you specify two projects, basically, this will runs your test on a multiple browsers. So here I'm using the same command again. Okay, this is the headed. So instead of this one right now, hyphen project space, let us check out the config dot file with the name as a Firefox. This is the name that we have in this basically the Firefox. So let me copy this Firefox name and let me update the name. So guys, if you look at my machine, basically I don't have a Firefox in this machine at all. Okay, I don't have a Firefox machine in this machine at all. So when I run it, basically running the tests on a four browsers and the execution is successful. As said in the previous session, though the browser isn't there, it will download the binaries and it will execute it. It's not going to depend on the browsers that were there as we have in our machine. Okay, it's not going to rely on the browsers that we have in our machine. Perfectly all right. So this command is done basically. If you want to run your specified test on a multiple browsers, you will be specifying up to this particular command. Okay, perfect. And consider that you have a multiple spec files and you want to run a specific spec file. In such a cases, you will be using that particular file name itself. Okay, in such cases, you will be using that particular file name itself. So let us say a simple example. So we have an example spec.ts, right? Let me copy paste it to four different times. Okay, one, two, three, four. As I have a copied, if you observe here, basically copy, we got it as a suffix, so I don't want to use it. So here what I'm doing is, okay, let me try to rename it. Okay, example 2. Okay, the same way this one also, let me change that name to example 3, and this one as an example 4. Okay, this one as an example 4. So if you observe, I have a four different files: example spec, spec 2, spec 3, spec 4. Four different files are there. Or for my better understanding, let me change it to spec 1. Okay, so we have a example 1, 2, example 3, and example 4. Four different files are there. And if you want to run only a single file, just to specify that particular file name. Okay, just to specify that particular file name. So here npx playwright test, I'm specifying my particular file name, which is example1 dot spec. Okay, example1 dot spec, and of course you can specify the extension as a ts. So when I try to run it, so it's trying to run it on all the browsers. The reason is I have uncommented the project configuration where I have three browsers uncommented, and this file does has a two tests. It executed all those things. Okay, perfectly all right. If there are multiple files are there, if you want to run a specific file, this is the way how exactly you need to use. Okay, and consider that you want to run a set of files directly. You will be specifying the directory, that file name, space, directory, another file name. Like that, you can specify the different directories. Consider that I have one file in a test directory and another file in a different directory. You can specify directory followed by a file name, second directory followed by a file name. You can specify it. As of now, I have in a one directory, so I'm not going with this option. Anyways, we'll see moving further with respect to this one. And consider that you wanna run a particular file which is containing either of these names. So here, playwright test, one file name or the second file name. If you have a specified that, if anything is there, it will be executing with that particular name. So here, what you want to do is npx playwright test example 1. Okay, example 1 space landing page. Okay, landing page. So when I run it, basically example1 dot spec dot ts file is there. It's trying to execute that. It will check this particular name or this particular name. So by default, I'm not specifying that a spec.ts. The reason is the playwright test will be looking for this particular spec.ts itself. Hence, I haven't specified that. Okay, this file name or this file name, it will be executing that. And consider that within a file, if you look at it, basically this file, okay, this example one file has two tests. One is a hash title and a get started link. These are the two different test titles. A test is having a title. This is the title of that particular test. You can also specify using the test title, where in which you can use a hyphen g there. You just need to use a hyphen g there. So npx, okay, test hyphen g. Specifically, you need to specify the title. So here, my title here is a has text. Okay, my title here is having a, what is my title? has a title. So this time it will be executing only one test. Okay, this will be executing only one test which is having this particular title. But the issue here is we have a four files. All the files does have this particular title has text, right? Has the title. See, my example one is having a has title. Example 2 is having a hash title. 3 is having a hash title. 4 is having a hash title. That's the reason it ran on a 12 different things. Okay, the reason is 4 files is having a one different test. So it is going to be 4. And in the config, it has a 3 browsers. 4 into 3, that's going to be 12 executions. That's the reason it ran on a 12. Okay, perfectly all right. So that's the way you can specify that particular title. Consider that your script got a failed in the previous execution. So what I'm gonna do right now is let me try to run this particular example one.spec file, where in which to have a title as Surendra. Okay, I'm just giving wantedly, I'm just giving this particular chunk. To have a title Surendra, definitely this will fail, right? Let me save my file. Okay, let me save my file. Let me clear all the drawings. Okay, yeah. So let me try to run this. So definitely this time, as the title mismatch is there, definitely there will be some failures. Okay, so page to have a title Surendra. Okay, so let me look at this particular report. Okay, let me look at this particular report. So the report is being launched. Let's come back to the browser. So here it has a title. Okay, none of the things got a failed. Okay, the reason is go to this particular one has a title Playwright. Okay, which file I made a corrections? It's not looking this particular file. In which file I made these corrections? Okay. So the issue here is, guys, if you look at it, basically the issue that I have done, I made a corrections to example 4.ts file. See, example 4.ts file is having a title Surendra, but we ran a example 1.ts. Okay, that's the reason there were no failures identified. Okay, so let me try this one to instead of a 1, let me change it to 4 and let me try to run this time. Okay, I'm trying to execute at this particular time. And if you look at it, basically, it will try to execute. Of course, the error got a populated and the detail error is being showing up. So these three tests got a fail. And guys, one thing that you have noticed is whenever the script executed successfully, it's not showing you the report. Whenever the script execution got a fail, it will prompting you, directly showing you an option. Let me quit this particular report and let's come back to the documentation and the command that we have. Okay, the command that we have to run the failed test is this is the one npx playwright test that it got a fail. So here, okay, so let me delete these things. Okay, this is the one that it got a copied npx playwright test. So here the thing that we need to use here is hyphen hyphen last failed. Okay, let me try to run it. So here in the last, there were only three got a fail and it is trying to run all those three. Okay, it is trying to run all those three. Still those three got a fail. So what I'm doing right now means let me revert my changes in the code. So which means earlier this is the title that it is validating. Wantedly, I changed it to Surendra. Now I have updated this particular title to the old one itself, which is a playwright itself. And let me rerun the failure now. So when I rerun the failure, this time it should execute successfully and nothing will fail. Okay, so this is the way how exactly we can validate the rerun on a failure as well. If something got a fail, how exactly we can rerun it. Okay, perfectly all right. So these are the various options, guys. And even if you look at this official documentation, whatever the points that I have explained, all these things are there as part of this documentation itself. And we have a couple more options that we need to discuss, which is a debugging of that particular test, along with how exactly we are going to run that particular test that we will be looking at in the next session. Okay, thank you. Bye bye.